Hello everybody, welcome to another exciting match of StarCraft 2. I'm your host, Big Blue Firebat, and let's get into the game. We're going to have here spawning as the Red Terran, playing for Team Dignitas SeleCT, one of the better players out there. He has actually kind of made a name for himself by being the only player to win 2 Team Liquid Opens. Very impressive showing, an excellent Terran player, and his opponent is going to be 6jax DDE. The tag is actually out of date. I think he's a former member of Team 6jax, so we're just going to call him DDE in this game, and a relatively unknown player, not too much on his match history. However, he is here, he's playing SeleCT, and you would have to assume that having made it this far, he's got to be a pretty decent player, he's got to have some chops, and he's going to give us a good game. The map is going to be Xel'Naga Caverns, and I think this is the MLG version of it with the little neutral supply depot here. Not going to play a whole lot of a role in this game. It's unlikely that either player is going to try to box the other in. This supply depot mostly there for Zerg players to avoid getting trapped in with bunkers or pylons or supply depots. A very difficult strategy to deal with for Zerg, but we're not going to see that because this is a Terran versus Terran, and this, I would have to say, is one of my favorite matches. I like Terran versus Terran because of the fact that it is all about positioning. It is all about small incremental advances. It is all about very solid play. You have to know exactly what your ranges of your siege tanks are. You got to know what your ranges of your Vikings are. You have to know exactly what your vision is, and you have to know where your opponent is, what they're doing. If you were to wander into a line of siege tanks that your opponent put down and you didn't know about it, that is game over, man. That is the end of the world for you. So, I like the scouting, I like the good positioning, and I just like the solid micromanagement that is required in order to apply your strategies in a Terran versus Terran. Now already we got DDE rolling down to select space. He's going to take a look around, got a full scout. Select for his part is going to take a little SCV off there, do a little SCV love, little SCV kiss there with the little drones there. It's okay, it's not gay, or if it is, don't worry about it. It's cool. And now we have, looks like SeleCT is just going a fairly standard opening. He's going to his orbital command now. He's got a factory going down. And DDE is not revealing his tech quite yet. I don't know what he's planning. He's probably waiting for 100 gas to lay down a factory. I'm expecting to see a 1-1-1 build out of both of these guys, considering the amount of gas they've saved up and minerals. And yes, we have a factory coming down. I want to remind you guys that this is a cold cast. This is a blind cast. I have not watched this game because I like to be as surprised as you are as it happens, and that SCV was just taken out by this Marine. This guy is a psycho. He blew that SCV away. He couldn't do anything for him, and that's the end of that. Now, already we have a tech lab going down for SeleCT, so we'll see if he what tech path he moves towards. And DDE is actually a little bit behind in his tech right now. He is going down for an earlier command center, but he is not quite up to date on SeleCT's side. But for his part, DDE is making up for that by having built this tech lab on the barracks. He decided to try to get a few Marines and then just set up this tech lab here, float the barracks over, and now he's actually even on the timing with SeleCT. Very cool positioning there, very cool choices. If you're a Terran player, it's an interesting way to go. You can build a barracks, throw a tech lab or reactor down while you're building another building, float the barracks away, drop the new building onto whatever add-on you built, and bam, you have instant access to whatever you wanted there. And it looks like DDE, for his part, is going to go for siege tanks. No siege tech yet, and SeleCT is going for Blue Flame Hellion. Now, as a StarCraft 2 player, when I'm going Terran versus Terran, I love going Hellion Marine, simply because of the fact that the dominant strategy in the Terran metagame, and since the beta, I would have to say, has been overwhelmingly Siege Tank, Viking, Marine, slow push up, win, strangle the opponent with your siege tanks, and use your Marines to cover anything else. But the Hellions really negate all of those Marines, particularly if they can get a good position on them. If that Hellion can splash onto a bunch of Marines with the Infernal Preigniter researched, you can kill a ton of Marines in one swoop. And that lets you clean up the siege tanks with your own Marines whenever you want, really. Siege tanks are good, but they're not that good against stimmed Marines, especially if the Marines are separated out. So, something to think about if you're having trouble with Terran versus Terran, try going Hellion Marine and see how that does for you. Both players are going with this 1-1-1 build, very versatile build. They're going to go for 1 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport. We got a little bit of a move out here, and let's see what happens. Blue Flame is already finished for Select, and 1 Marine going down, the 2nd Marine going down, roasted away. These Siege Tanks are attacking the Hellion, but Siege Tanks do not do a ton of damage versus Hellions, and now we have just some great little engagement here, and that's what I was talking about. Those Hellions with that Blue Flame and the Marines back up, we're able to roast away all of DDE's own Marines, and now this Siege Tank is completely defenseless. He is forced to run away. I doubt the Siege Tank would be able to kill more than 1 or 2 Marines on his own, but now he's got a little bit of reinforcement here, and no Siege tech yet up for DDE, but he has almost got it. Nearly finished. 5 more game seconds left. And Select is showing his intention to take his expansion. DDD is already flying his orbital command down, but we just have Select hanging out in his base, mining happily with his own orbital command. I expect he's going to lift it off and move it over almost immediately. So DDE a little bit further ahead on the expansion. I would say that in terms of tech, they are about equivalent, even though DDE is going for this siege tech and Marines, and Select is going for Blue Flame Hellions and Marines. But we see Select is already setting up his own siege tech, so we're going to see another factory out. We're going to be looking at a ton of factories. Select going for mech play. We're going to be seeing siege tanks. We're going to be seeing Hellions, supported by Marines, probably supported by a Viking or 2. We'll see how that goes. And speaking of Vikings, we have a drop going down, intercepted by a Viking, but not in time. Hellions rushing into the main base of DDE. Good Blue Flame Hellion play there, and another thing about Blue Flame Hellions is that they are utter maniacs when it comes to roasting up SCVs. If you can get a good spread on your Hellions, you can kill 10, 20 SCVs at a time, and DDE is having none of this. He's decided, I am not going to deal with these Hellions. Screw these guys, but that Hellion slips through the slide beams. They could not lower a point in time. That's what I'm talking about. Look at that huge line on those SCVs getting just annihilated, and I think the siege tank is accidentally attacking down here. But we got another, we got this Hellion still going to town on this mineral line, finally forced to run away. That was a big hit by DDE. He lost 18 workers to Select. That was huge. And now we got these Vikings, and DDE is setting up the traditional Terran versus Terran push. He's got Vikings to spot, siege tanks to crush, and even these Vikings over here landing, they realize that these Hellions here are not going to be able to do a whole hell of a lot to them. Even if the Hellions make it over there and get a hit off, that's not going to do a whole lot. This command center is getting shelled down by the siege tanks, and Select with his Raven is forced to really just hang back, set up his own siege line here, but he cannot push into this position. Particularly because once these Vikings lift off, they're going to allow the siege tanks to have a huge amount of range. Interesting fact about siege tanks, they actually have more range than they have vision, which allows them to shoot farther than they can see. So if you've got a flying unit, if you've got a couple Marines up front that can spot for a siege tank, you can really cover just an enormous amount of space. Look at that. Look at how much space is covered. But now we got a great positioning on Select Siege Tank. He is within range of DDE's, but he was not able to see him. And now we got one Siege Tank going down. This other Siege Tank is going to take this guy down. But we got a point defense drone going for these Vikings in order to allow the Raven to spot for Select, but still not good enough. But we got another attack from Select. I'm sorry I missed that. I will follow that on the picture-in-picture. Wait and look in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and you will see all those Hellions going to town. But now Select is forced to pull SCVs off the line. He's got to get in there. He's got to clear these siege tanks out, or it's game over. We got a great surround on these tanks. One tank not double check. The other Hellions coming back. Hellions not very effective against siege tanks, but enough of them together will eventually destroy them. They only do 8 damage, and that siege tank has some armor. And same with Marauders here, not doing a whole lot of damage to them, but enough Hellions together will eventually destroy things. And it looks like DDE was able to even things up, even though Select went to town and still has a huge advantage in the workers killed tab. Both these players are not looking so hot on their income, 26 to 21, and both players have the benefit of mules, so that is not going to be very helpful to either one of them. And now we got this Viking down here, and this Viking, extremely resilient to Hellions. He can sit there, he can tank Hellions all damn day, finally going down to these 2 Hellions. And that was quite a bit of an engagement. I would have to say that the scales are about even. Select is winning in his worker kill, which is going to keep him ahead on the economy game, but he has got to switch up his tech a little bit more, incorporate a few more siege tanks with his Hellions and his Marines, or at least get some better positioning. And look at this, Marauders, no Marines. DDE realizes that Select is going for this heavy mech build. And when you're going against heavy mech, Marauders are just going to annihilate it simply because Hellions do no damage to them. and siege tanks fall to the Marauders very quickly. But the Marauders are actually out of position. They got wailed on by those siege tanks. If they had stemmed up and run in here, I think they would have been a much better spot, able to kill almost all of those siege tanks. But instead, the siege tanks doing their nasty Crucio shock cannons to the Marauders. I'm not sure exactly how much damage they do. I think it's 50 to armored units. And now we have Select just pushing back and forth. This is going to be a bit of a stalemate right now as both players macro up and vie for control of these watchtowers of the center of the map. This section here, these two chokes are going to be highly contested for both players, because once you have control of this section of your map, you can take out these destructible rocks, set up your gold, and just slowly push your way up the center of the map to your opponent's base. But hold the phone, we have DDE. Look at, he does not want this tower taken. He's going to set up his own siege tanks. He's got his own Vikings in the air, but Select has his Vikings as well, and he has more of them. And there are no Marines on the ground to deal with those Vikings. Vikings landing for some reason, I'm not sure why. I think that might have been a mistake, or at least to provide some cover fire. But with the Vikings with vision, the siege tanks to go to town on the Marauders, and with no Marines to take out the Vikings of Select, I think that Select is actually in a very strong position. He has the unit position. He has the unit count that is going to allow him to utterly counter DDE's play, unless we see some amazing positioning from DDE. If we see some incredible timing from him, then I think that he can overwhelm the better unit choice from Select, which is what I was talking about when it comes to Terran versus Terran. It is more about positioning and placement and timing than it necessarily is about your unit composition. Sure, you're going to win with Vikings versus Ravens, but with something like this, Marauders and Siege Tanks versus Marauders and Siege Tanks, Hellions, and Ravens, or I'm sorry, Vikings, I think that both players have a decent chance of taking the game at any time. And now we have another engagement coming down here. DDE is trying to push up, but he's going to see all these siege tanks here. He sees that siege line. He realizes he can't get anywhere close. And Select is aware of the fact that there are no Marines to shoot down these Vikings. I think that DDE really needs at least a couple Marines to deal with this. Otherwise, Select is just going to constantly be able to get as much vision as he wants. He'll know when to move up, when to siege up, when to move out, when to run away. And DDE is producing a lot of Vikings at the same time, but I don't think it's going to be enough right now. However, he is an excellent player. They both are, and we're going to see another setup for Siege by DDE, and we have Select going in for another attempt on these SCVs. I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do. There are Marauders down here waiting for them. Select getting a lot of damage, and DDE sending these Marauders down here to clear this set of rocks. He's going to do a little bit of a flank attack, go for these SCVs and mules, while using these siege tanks here to hold the center position from Select. But if Select is unaware, he is just now aware of all these Marauders rushing in, getting a number of siege tank shots from those three siege tanks, and all these Marauders are in the red, in the yellow, but going to town on these SCVs, and now the siege tanks are forced to move back and defend, but he is losing a lot of SCVs, and DDE is almost about to even it up. He's still down about 17 workers, but he's getting closer and closer, and Select, I gotta say, is losing a little bit on his macro. He's banking about 1,500 minerals, and it's true that he's getting gas starved here because of all these siege tank crap, but he could be spending those minerals on barracks, he could be spending them onto Marines, he could get himself some more cannon fodder to rush into these siege tanks, and now he is forced into the uncomfortable position. He has got to push into a siege line. Siege tanks luckily are very resilient. The Viking landing for a second, taking a few hits from the siege tanks of DDE, and DDE realizes that with that army being destroyed, the Select is going to be able to continue to push out. He has got his goal established. He's even got an orbital command here, no planetary fortress, and he's able to rain down mules on these gold minerals. He's going to be able to keep out producing him, and the minute that DDE tries to take his own gold mineral patch, Select will be there with tanks, with Vikings, and he will not be able to recover. Great game, good play from both sides. I like the different tech paths, both viable, makes for a very exciting game, and I will see you in game 2.